Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and I'm a little under the weather. I apologize, but I just finished up Jedi Survivor. So let's talk about it. This is the follow-up to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's another game that I really enjoyed. So full disclosure, at least, I'm a fan, so you know where I'm coming from with this. But all you need to know is that this is a textbook good sequel. Like, it goes bigger and bolder, throws way more at you, more to do, and while it might not feel as small and special and surprising as the original game, it's still a great adventure to me. It gets a little wacky, but ultimately it tells a story with some heart to it, like the first game. The set pieces are bigger, maybe even crazier and more video gamey than Star Warsy, but the moment-to-moment combat and whacking enemies is still a ton of fun and better than ever thanks to some stuff I'll get into. And just so you know, we've been playing a review copy, and this footage is captured on PlayStation 5 and is spoiler-free. Any cutscene, story stuff you see here is pretty early in the game. The only thing I am going to talk about in depth is the new weapons, just a heads up, but they were all revealed in trailers and stuff, so no surprises. The big question I always get, though, jumping into this, is do you need to play the first game? And here, I'd say, yeah. Definitely. If you play the first one, you have more knowledge of the characters and stuff, and the story might pay off a little bit more. This does take place quite a bit after the first game, though, with the Mantis crew in different places throughout the galaxy, and Cal doing jobs to help the early rebellion. So from there, Cal gets whisked away on a big adventure that feels less connected to events in the timeline compared to the previous game. You know, you're not seeing too many famous characters or moments with Inquisitors and stuff here. You're heading out to farther reaches in space, and Respawn is telling their own fantastical story here. Every person kinda wants something different from Star Wars, every fan is different, and they just do some creative things here. Some things are shown that is nice to see if you pay attention to more than just the movies. I'll say that. I'm one of those weirdos, so I liked seeing some cool stuff here. Some of the big action set-piece moments, like I said at the start, they feel more just like sci-fi action video game than specifically Star Wars, but that's really my only complaint here because, man, like when the story in this thing really picks up in the second half, I absolutely loved it. I was on that ride. But the name of the game here is, like I said, more. More stuff. More combat stances, more to do, bigger worlds, more opportunities for combat encounters, and this just makes the game feel a little less like a quaint Star Wars spin on a light and easy Souls-like formula, and more of a big open-world adventure that throws the kitchen sink at you. That identity from the first game is still there, but there's just a lot more. There are a handful of planets you go to do your typical adventuring, but a lot of your time is going to be spent on one large open world planet that acts kind of as the hub. This planet, Kobo, has a ton of different regions and biomes, and it feels like pretty staggeringly big. There are dungeons in it, hidden areas, lots of optional things, and every planet has their own little sub-objectives, but Kobo has a ton that you get from random citizens walking around, and they usually lead you towards grabbing something, finding someone, or finding a secret cave and killing a monster. The rewards are satisfying enough, though, because the progression and the unlocks are good. I'll get to that. Now, from Kobo, you also have a cool cantina to hang out in and gather new characters in. This is a really good creative spin on a Star Wars cantina, something we've seen a million times before. It feels faithful, yet unique and cool and interesting. There are things to collect that you can walk around and see here. You can change the music, you can cash in on special things that you collect and spend them at vendors, talk to side characters. All of it is pretty satisfying. And then there are also plant seeds you can collect and plant them on a rooftop garden. It's like a massive blowout of the little plant stuff on the ship from the first game, and it seems like a bit much, but hey, it's there. The structure is similar, though. Like, you're still hopping on the Mantis, you're loading up the holotable, and you're traveling to different areas and then walking off the ship when you land. The game added more fast travel elements and a better map, but I'm glad it's still structured around planet hopping because that stuff is cool. Now, one thing to keep in mind is performance. The game looks okay, you know, there's a day one patch that really cleans up the game, but you may still experience some disappointing frame drops here and there, especially in the open world. Now, there are two modes. You have performance mode for better frame rates and fidelity mode for just 4K-ish. You guys know I'm not super technical and I can only speak for my experience on the PlayStation 5. That's the only version I got today. I used performance mode, and after the patch, like I said, I got stronger frame rates and less crashes, but it's worth noting that the game might be coming in a little bit hot. The PC version should definitely take more research from you as a consumer. Just a heads up. I'd recommend checking out my colleagues like SkillUp or even the Digital Foundry guys for the nitty-gritty on that. Now, let's talk combat. The bread and the butter, man. It's still good, in my opinion. I think the parry feel and attacks and stuff are a matter of taste. I know some folks will want a less mushy parry and for the game to be more of like a bloodbath, but hey, there is some limb chopping off now, and it does make a pretty good difference. There are a lot of the same enemy types from the first game, but also a ton of really good new ones. There's a good mix. Some really cool enemy types that I think will satisfy some Star Wars fans, most importantly, but the biggest thing is combat stances. Now, I don't have a ton of footage for all of them because I kind of stuck to my favorites, but you can swap them when you meditate at bonfires. There's also like a little perk system here to swap around too. But the stances, first and foremost, there's the regular single stance, then the double-bladed, and the more expanded version of dual wielding. They work like you'd expect. They are definitely a blowout of what was set up at the end of the first game. But then there's the pistol lightsaber hybrid stance, which we haven't seen too much of, but I'm happy to report it works exactly like maybe you were hoping, at least like I was hoping. It's lightsaber swings with the occasional blaster shot in between strikes and a bit more ranged capability, and some really cool finishing animations. And then there's the crossguard stance, which is really big and slow and heavy like a claymore, and I was surprised how much I loved using this one. It's really satisfying, and the sound effects just hit different. Now, force powers, unfortunately, don't get too much of an expansion, more of just tweaks within what you already have. You know, enough new level up upgrades on stuff you're already used to doing, mostly. And the skill tree is once again pretty solid, man, with all kinds of upgrades from more health to new lightsaber attacks, and you can respec if you want. My only issue with the combat is that I wish there was even more attack and move variation. Like, there are a lot of stances, but you can only do so many types of attacks with them, you know? I suggest changing it up a bit so you don't get bored, but I don't really think you will, because if you played the first game, you just know that the combat can be really satisfying when it really hits. Like, clearing out enemies in a room really quickly with limited strikes and blocking a blaster bolt or two can just be an endorphin rush if you do it perfectly. Maybe it's just because I'm a Star Wars fanboy, I don't know. Just be warned, there is a lot of platforming here. Like, the first game had more than expected, but they go pretty crazy here. I almost want to call the game a platformer. Like, you're getting a lot of abilities to get around and, of course, revisit areas with new abilities to unlock more areas and more things. But not a lot of it is channeled to force abilities opening up new areas. A lot of it is just different platform and traversal options you unlock. But again, you're doing all this exploration to get stuff, get goodies, and I like them. You know, more lightsaber customization, weapon customization, deeper BD1 customization. Unfortunately, no Mantis customization that I could find, but also Cal customization now. Like, I didn't really like too many of the haircuts or the beards, but the outfits are awesome. Just like peak Star Wars. Whether you want to be like a guy in a jacket or just this big cool looking warrior guy, seems like they've got you pretty much covered with tons of references to things I definitely appreciated. Now, I finished up the main story with some side exploration in a pretty satisfying 22 hours. The game's tracking said I was 70% done with everything, so I can actually get a lot more time out of that. I mean, keep in mind, I also was kind of rushing, and I've replayed the first game a lot, so I was really cruising. But like I said at the start, there is significantly way more to do here in this game and the world. Now, there are also multiple difficulty modes and a new game plus mode after the end. This mode will let you bring everything in with all skills unlocked and new lightsaber colors and surprises. You'll also get new perks that can really change things up significantly too if you're looking for more of a challenge, but I'll let you figure out some of that stuff. Now, Survivor, like I said at the start, is just more. It's more stances, more enemies, more open world, more platforming, more unlocking, more collecting, more doing weird shit, more. But it doesn't lose sight of still trying to tell a cool story. and even take some risks and do some weird little things within Star Wars, like putting their own kind of mark on it, you know? In the first half, I actually thought they were gonna lose sight of the story more for gameplay, but as the adventure rolled on and then I wrapped it up, I was really satisfied. But hey, that's just me. It's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. And now I want to hear yours down in the comments. What are your expectations for this game? How are you going to dress up Cal? Let's talk about anything Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and now Survivor down in the comments. We really like the first game. Let us know what you think. The game is dropping soon, so hopefully y'all jump in and have fun. But that's it. If you want to hear more, I'll be talking about this more in depth on my other channel, youtube.com/JakeBaldino, and we're going to be in the comments. So all feedback is appreciated. Clicking the like button helps us out. We're here every day. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you in the next one.
I'm looking.
The ship's in Bedlam Raider territory.
For the Bedlam